Hello, welcome back. In this episode, I want to talk a little bit more about the pelvis and what we do in prenatal yoga. And in particular, what poses are beneficial to help support our pregnant women to have a functional physiological birth. So if we think about the pelvis for a moment and we just need to kind of look at its anatomy, the pelvis has basically two openings or exits. So we have the opening of the pelvis here is called the pelvic inlet, and on the underside we have the pelvic outlet. Okay, and the pelvic outlet, you'll notice, is flanked by the two sitting bones. And why is this important? Well, how is baby going to navigate through the pelvis? Baby is going to drop its head through the opening of the pelvis, the pelvic inlet, and then have to birth through the pelvic outlet. And so in prenatal yoga, we work a lot with this concept because we know that the pelvis is actually becoming more mobile and able to shape shift. And that's because of the relaxin hormone and estrogen and progesterone, which are all helping to soften the joints of the pelvis, like the pubis symphysis, to soften the joints on either side of the sacrum, the sacroiliac joints, and the coccygeal joint. And so we know that by moving our hips, so moving our legs in external rotations and internal rotations, we can affect the shape of the pelvis. And this is why active birthing is so wonderful and empowering, because it means that as the woman is laboring, that she can move her body. So rather than laying on a hospital bed and basically laying on the sacrum, which, look, when you lay on the sacrum, my midwife says this is like laying on the gate, and it's keeping the gate closed. I can even look here as I'm closing the gate. There's not much room for baby's head to be able to come through, whether that's through the opening of the pelvis or through the outlet of the pelvis. Okay, so instead, it's great during labor to be in upright positions or forward-leaning positions where you can actually move the pelvis. You can work through external rotations and internal rotations and be able to affect the shape of the pelvis. And so, which helps baby to navigate, of course. And so in prenatal yoga, we do a lot of hip opening. This is almost what prenatal yoga is known for, opening, 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 which is fantastic because that helps to open the inlet of the pelvis. So if we do external rotation, like think about butterfly, then we're helping to open the inlet. And this is going to help baby to be able to descend. But let us not forget about the outlet of the pelvis here. We also want to work on being able to open the outlet. And this is done with internal rotations of the hips. And so not only do we focus on hip opening, like warrior twos and triangles and side angle stretches and butterflies and wide-legged straddle folds and all these different ways to open up the inlet and to open the hips and create that hip flexibility. We also want to think about internal rotations of the hips, because if you watch the sitting bones, an internal rotation is going to widen the sitting bones apart, which is going to open the outlet of the pelvis. And there are other benefits as well to widening the sitting bones, and that would be we get an amazing stretch to the pelvic floor. And so if you just look at the pelvic floor, this is the underside of the pelvis. So we have the pubis symphysis at the front here. So the pelvic floor runs from the pubic bone to the two sitting bones all the way back to the tailbone and the sacrum. And so if you see the sitting bones here, if you think about that internal rotation of the hips where we widen the sitting bones apart, you're getting a good stretch through the pelvic floor. And that's something that we also need to include in our prenatal classes. We do want a balanced, toned pelvic floor, but giving it a good stretch and good release is really important. And also that internal rotation of the hips, when we widen the sitting bones apart, not only does it help open the outlet of the pelvis, it can also really help to address pelvic girdle pain, which you might have seen in one of my earlier videos. So it's a great way to help balance the pelvis. So your prenatal class should include a wonderful combination of all of these, of pelvic opening poses with external rotations, and also we could say pelvic closing in a way, but it's internal rotations of the hips. We want to have both so that, again, we can affect the opening of the pelvis and also the outlet of the pelvis. And I would say getting used to these poses is also wonderful preparation for labor, because you can use a lot of them in labor to help baby be able to navigate through the pelvis. Now, one last thing, if you are having pelvic girdle pain, do let your yoga teacher know, because some of the external rotations are really not so supportive for pelvic girdle pain. So check out my other video if you'd like to learn more about that, and definitely let your yoga teachers know as well. I hope that you have a wonderful prenatal yoga experience, and that these aspects are included in the prenatal yoga that you practice. And if you have any questions, let me know. If you like these episodes, hit the like button, subscribe below, and I look forward to journeying with you again. I see a storm is coming. Gotta go. Bye-bye.